The sound of gunfire echoed through the Montana Valley as Abigail Dawson clutched her shivering shoulders, peering anxiously through the windows of the stagecoach. It was 1876, and the 22-year-old schoolteacher had never imagined her journey west would end with bandits attacking her transport, leaving her stranded in unfamiliar territory with strangers she'd only met hours before. "Get down, Miss Dawson," the driver shouted as bullets splintered the wooden frame. "They're coming back around." Abigail dropped to the floor, her heart pounding against her ribs like a drum. The stagecoach had been carrying 5 passengers when they departed from Fort Benton, but now only 3 remained: herself, an elderly merchant named Mr. Wilson, and a silent young woman clutching a baby to her chest. The horses screamed as more shots rang out. Abigail could hear the driver cursing, then a terrible thud as something or someone hit the ground. "The driver's been hit," Mr. Wilson exclaimed, his weathered face pale with fear. The stagecoach lurched violently, veering off the trail. Without a driver to control them, the panicked horses bolted, dragging the coach at breakneck speed across the uneven terrain. Abigail was thrown against the wall, pain shooting through her shoulder. "We need to jump," the young mother cried, clutching her infant tighter. "We'll be killed." Abigail protested, but she could see the steep ravine approaching through the window. The horses were heading straight for it, blind in their terror. Mr. Wilson flung open the door. "Better to jump than go over that edge, Miss Dawson." The mother went first, cradling her baby as she leapt into the tall grass. Mr. Wilson followed, disappearing from view with a shout. Abigail froze at the doorway, the ground rushing by in a blur beneath her. The ravine was approaching fast. The horses screamed again. Taking a deep breath, Abigail jumped. The world spun around her as she tumbled through the grass, pain exploding through her body. When she finally came to a stop, she lay still, testing each limb carefully. Nothing seemed broken, though her entire body ached fiercely. She raised her head just in time to see the stagecoach, horses still attached, plummet over the edge of the ravine. "Mr. Wilson," she called, struggling to her feet. "Madam, is anyone there?" Only silence answered her. Abigail turned in a slow circle, surveying the vast, empty landscape. Rolling hills of tall grass stretched in every direction, with no sign of the road or her fellow passengers. The sun was already beginning its descent toward the distant mountains, painting the sky in deepening shades of orange and pink. Night would come soon, and with it, the dangers of the wild. Abigail had heard tales of wolves, bears, and hostile bands that still roamed these territories. And somewhere out there, the bandits who had attacked the stagecoach might still be searching for survivors. She needed to find shelter before darkness fell. Gathering her courage, Abigail chose a direction and began walking, hoping to find some trace of civilization before nightfall. The sun sank lower as she trudged through the tall grass. Her smart traveling boots, perfect for Boston sidewalks, were wholly inadequate for the rugged terrain. Blisters formed and burst with each step, but she pushed forward, refusing to stop even as tears of pain and fear streaked her dust-covered face. As darkness descended, Abigail spotted a light in the distance. Hope surged through her tired body. Perhaps it was a homestead or a ranch somewhere she could find help. Drawing closer, she realized it was a small cabin, light spilling from its windows into the gathering gloom. Smoke curled from the chimney, promising warmth and possibly food. Abigail quickened her pace despite her protesting feet. She was just 20 yards from the door when it swung open, revealing a silhouette holding a rifle. "Who's there?" a gruff male voice called out. "Show yourself." Abigail froze, raising her hands. "Please don't shoot. I'm just a school teacher. My stagecoach was attacked." The man lowered his rifle slightly but didn't invite her forward. "Where are the others?" "I don't know," Abigail admitted, tears threatening again. "We jumped from the coach when the driver was shot. I lost sight of the others." The man hesitated, then sighed heavily. "Come in, then. Can't leave a woman alone out here after dark." Relief flooded through Abigail as she stumbled forward. As she entered the circle of light from the doorway, she got her first good look at her reluctant host. He was an older man with a gray-streaked beard and hard eyes that had clearly seen their share of trouble. Not the most welcoming sight, but any port in a storm. "Name's Hank Mercer," he said gruffly. "This is my place." "Abigail Dawson," she replied, wincing as she stepped over the threshold. "I'm very grateful, Mr. Mercer." The cabin was small but neat, with a main room containing a table, 2 chairs, and a stone fireplace. A curtain separated what she assumed was a sleeping area. "Sit," Hank ordered, gesturing to one of the chairs. "You're bleeding." Abigail looked down to see blood seeping through her torn stockings. In her panic and determination, she hadn't noticed the cuts on her legs from her tumble from the stagecoach. Hank brought over a basin of water and some clean rags. "Clean yourself up. I've got stew on the fire." "You look like you could use a meal." "Thank you," Abigail murmured, wincing as she dabbed at her cuts. "Do you live here alone, Mr. Mercer?" "Just passing through," he replied cryptically. "Heading to California come spring." Abigail nodded, not pressing further. Something about Hank Mercer suggested he wasn't a man who appreciated questions about his past or his business. After a simple but filling meal of venison stew, Hank spread a bedroll near the fire. "You can sleep here tonight. Tomorrow I'll take you to Willow Creek. It's about half a day's ride. They've got a telegraph office you can send word to whoever's expecting you." "That's very kind," Abigail said softly. "I was heading to Silver Valley. My uncle arranged a teaching position there." Hank nodded. "Willow Creek's closer. From there, you can arrange transport to Silver Valley." Exhaustion overtook Abigail quickly, and despite her fear and uncertainty, she fell into a deep sleep beside the crackling fire. She woke to shouting, bolting upright. Abigail blinked in the dim, early morning light filtering through the cabin's small windows. Hank was at the door, rifle in hand, exchanging heated words with someone outside. "I'm telling you, old man, we know she's in there. The stage was carrying something valuable and we want it back." Abigail's blood ran cold. "The bandits had tracked her here." "Ain't nobody here but me," Hank replied evenly. "And I don't take kindly to being called a liar on my own property. Step aside, Mercer. We don't want trouble with you, but we will take what we came for." Hank's shoulders stiffened. "You boys best ride on, nothing for you here." There was a moment of tense silence then. "You've got 1 hour to change your mind, old man. After that, we're coming in whether you're standing or not." Hoofbeats signaled the bandits' temporary retreat. Hank closed the door and turned to Abigail, his expression grim. "Were you carrying something valuable?" he asked bluntly. Abigail shook her head. "No, just my clothes and some books. There was a strong box under the driver's seat, but I don't know what was in it." Hank rubbed his beard thoughtfully. "They won't believe that. And they won't leave without searching this place." He looked at her appraisingly. "Can you ride?" "A little," Abigail admitted. "My father taught me when I was younger." "Good. There's a trail behind the cabin that leads into the hills. Follow it east until you reach a fork, then take the north path. About 5 miles on, you'll find a ranch belonging to a man named Angus O'Malley. Tell him Hank sent you and that there's trouble. He'll help you get to Willow Creek safely." "What about you?" Abigail asked, alarmed. Hank's weathered face softened slightly. "Don't you worry about me, Miss Dawson. I've handled worse than a few desperate bandits." "But they'll kill you," she protested. "They'll try," Hank corrected with a grim smile. Now hurry and get ready, I'll saddle my mare for you." 20 minutes later, Abigail was mounted on Hank's gentle mare, a small bundle of provisions tied to the saddle. Hank led her to the back of the cabin where a narrow trail disappeared into the trees. "Remember, east until the fork, then north. Stick to the trail. The mare knows the way." Abigail reached down and squeezed his hand. "Thank you, Mr. Mercer. I'll send help as soon as I can." Hank nodded once, then slapped the mare's flank. "Go on now, and don't look back." With a heavy heart, Abigail urged the horse forward, leaving her rescuer to face the bandits alone. The trail was steep and winding, forcing her to focus entirely on staying mounted as the mare picked her way carefully through the rocky terrain. The sound of gunfire echoed through the hills an hour into her journey. Abigail reined in the horse, turning back toward the direction of the cabin. Smoke was rising in the distance. Tears stung her eyes as she realized what must have happened. Poor Mr. Mercer had sacrificed himself to give her time to escape. She silently said a prayer for him before urging the mare onward. She couldn't let his sacrifice be in vain. The day grew hot as the sun climbed higher. Abigail's city upbringing had not prepared her for the harsh realities of wilderness travel. Her body ached from the saddle, and thirst clawed at her throat despite the water Hank had provided. By midday, she reached the fork in the trail. Taking the north path as instructed, she continued on, her spirits lifting slightly at the thought of reaching safety soon. The attack came without warning. A man on horseback burst from the trees ahead, blocking the trail. Abigail reined in sharply, nearly tumbling from the saddle as the mare reared in alarm. Well, the man drawled, leveling a pistol at her. Looks like the old man's information was good after all. Horror filled Abigail as she recognized one of the bandits from the stagecoach attack. How had he gotten ahead of her? "I don't have anything of value," she said, struggling to keep her voice steady. The bandit laughed. "That's not what our sources say. The strongbox wasn't on the coach when we searched it, which means one of you passengers must have it." His eyes narrowed. "And you're the only one we've found alive so far." Abigail's heart sank at the implication. The other passengers, Mr. Wilson, the young mother and her baby, were they all dead? "I don't have your strongbox," she insisted. "I don't know anything about it." "We'll see about that," the bandit replied, urging his horse forward. "You're coming with me, and you'd better hope you remember where you hid that box if you want to stay breathing." Panic surged through Abigail. She couldn't let this man take her. Instinctively, she kicked the mare's sides hard, causing the horse to bolt forward directly toward the bandit. Surprised by her sudden charge, the man fired wildly, the bullet whizzing past her ear. As the horses collided, Abigail was thrown from the saddle, landing hard on the ground as the animals squealed and the bandit cursed. Winded but determined, Abigail scrambled to her feet and ran for the trees, ignoring the pain shooting through her body. Behind her, she could hear the bandit struggling to control his frightened horse. "You can run, but you won't get far," he shouted after her. Abigail plunged into the forest, branches whipping her face as she ran blindly forward. She had no plan beyond putting as much distance as possible between herself and her pursuer. The dense undergrowth tore at her skirts, but she pushed on, fueled by terror. Eventually, her legs gave out and she collapsed behind a fallen log, her chest heaving with exertion. Had she lost him? She strained to listen over the pounding of her heart, but the forest had gone eerily silent. As her breathing steadied, reality sank in. She was lost in unfamiliar wilderness with a dangerous man hunting her and no supplies. Hank's mare was gone, along with any chance of finding her way to the O'Malley ranch. Night would fall in a few hours, bringing cold and new dangers. Abigail allowed herself a moment of despair, hot tears tracking down her dirt-streaked face. How had her dream of a new life out west turned into this nightmare? After several minutes, she wiped her tears and forced herself to think. She needed shelter and water. Looking around, she spotted a small stream nearby. At least she wouldn't die of thirst. Following the stream might lead her to civilization, or at least give her a landmark to navigate by. Rising shakily to her feet, Abigail began to walk alongside the stream, keeping to the cover of the trees in case the bandit was still searching for her. As dusk approached, Abigail found a small hollow beneath the exposed roots of a massive tree. It wasn't much, but it would provide some protection from the elements and was well hidden from casual observation. She gathered some pine boughs to create a makeshift bed, then huddled in her hiding place as darkness fell. The night sounds of the wilderness were terrifying to her city-trained ears. Every rustle and howl made her flinch, imagining bandits or wild animals closing in. She didn't dare light a fire, though the temperature was dropping rapidly. Instead, she wrapped her thin traveling cloak tightly around herself and prayed for morning to come quickly. Sleep came in fitful bursts, broken by sounds real and imagined. When a twig snapped nearby in the darkest hour of the night, Abigail froze, hardly daring to breathe. Footsteps approached her hiding place too deliberate to be an animal. The bandit had found her. Abigail pressed herself further into the hollow, praying the darkness would conceal her. A lantern's glow suddenly illuminated the area. Abigail closed her eyes, knowing discovery was inevitable. "Miss, are you hurt?" The voice was not the bandit's. Abigail's eyes flew open to see a man crouching near her hiding place, holding a lantern. His face was partially shadowed, but she could see concern in his expression. "Who are you?" she whispered, not ready to trust any stranger after what she'd been through. "Name's Archer O'Malley," he replied, keeping his voice low. "I found Hank's mare wandering riderless on my property." Figured whoever was riding her might be in trouble. Relief flooded through Abigail. "Angus O'Malley, Hank Mercer sent me to find you," the man shook his head. "Angus is my father, I'm Archer. What happened? Where's Hank?" Quickly, Abigail explained about the stagecoach attack, Hank's shelter, and the bandits' return. Archer's expression grew grim as she described the gunfire and smoke she'd seen from the trail. "And one of them found me on the path to your ranch," she finished. "I escaped, but I lost the horse in my way." Archer nodded, his jaw tight. "Hank's an old friend of my father's. If those men hurt him—" He didn't finish the thought. "We need to get you to safety, then I'll gather some men to check on Hank and track these bandits." He extended a hand to help her from her hiding place. As Abigail emerged into the lantern light, she got her first clear look at her rescuer. Archer O'Malley was tall and broad-shouldered, with dark hair and striking blue eyes that assessed her with concern. He appeared to be in his late 20s, his face tanned and weathered from outdoor work. "Can you walk?" he asked, noting her torn dress and scratched limbs. "Yes," Abigail said, though her body protested as she straightened. "How did you find me in the dark?" "Tracked you from where I found the mare," Archer explained, leading her carefully through the trees. "You left a clear trail. Lucky for you I found it before those bandits did." A chill ran down Abigail's spine at the reminder of her pursuers. "Are they still looking for me?" "Probably," Archer admitted. "But they won't find you now. My horse is just up ahead. We'll ride double back to the ranch. It's not far." Archer's horse was a magnificent black stallion that eyed Abigail warily as they approached. Archer mounted first, then reached down to pull her up behind him. "Hold tight," he instructed as she settled awkwardly behind him, unsure where to place her hands. "And don't worry about being proper. I'd rather you stayed on the horse than fell off maintaining decorum." Blushing, Abigail wrapped her arms around his waist as the horse began to move through the darkness. Archer seemed to navigate effortlessly despite the limited light from his lantern, following trails invisible to her eyes. The steady rhythm of the horse's gait and the solid warmth of Archer's back lulled Abigail into a sense of security she hadn't felt since before the stagecoach attack. Despite her best efforts, exhaustion overtook her, and she found herself dozing against his back as they rode. "Miss Dawson," Archer's voice pulled her back to consciousness. "We're almost there." Abigail straightened, embarrassed to have fallen asleep against a stranger. In the distance, she could see lights glowing from the windows of a large ranch house. The sight of civilization after her ordeal brought tears to her eyes. As they approached, dogs began to bark, announcing their arrival. The front door opened, spilling golden lamplight onto the porch as a burly older man stepped out, rifle in hand. "Who goes there?" he called. "It's Archer, Pa." Her rescuer shouted back, "I've found our visitor." Angus O'Malley lowered his rifle as they rode into the yard. "Thank the Lord. When that mare came back riderless, we feared the worst." Archer dismounted, then reached up to help Abigail down. Her legs buckled as she hit the ground, unused to riding and weak from her ordeal. Archer caught her before she fell, his strong hand steadying her. "Easy now," he murmured. "You're safe." Inside the ranch house, Abigail was introduced to Angus's wife, Martha, a kind-faced woman who immediately took charge of the situation. She sent the men out to tend to the horse while she ushered Abigail to a chair by the fire and brought her hot tea and a plate of food. "You poor dear," Martha clucked, taking in Abigail's torn dress and scratched skin. "Let's get you cleaned up and into some fresh clothes. I've got some things that might fit you." The hot bath Martha prepared was the closest thing to heaven Abigail had experienced in days. As she soaked her battered body in the steaming water, she heard the men's voices from the main room discussing plans to ride out at first light to check on Hank and hunt for the bandits. After her bath, dressed in a borrowed nightgown and robe, Abigail rejoined the family in the main room. Archer and his father were deep in conversation at the table, maps spread between them. "Begging your pardon," she interrupted softly, "but I should tell you everything I know about these men. It might help you find them." Archer looked up, his expression softening as he saw her standing uncertainly in the doorway. "Of course, Miss Dawson. Please join us." For the next hour, Abigail described everything she could remember about the stagecoach attack, the bandits, and their apparent obsession with a missing strongbox. Archer and his father listened intently, occasionally asking clarifying questions. "It makes no sense," Angus said when she finished. "The stage line doesn't usually carry anything valuable enough to warrant this kind of pursuit." "Unless someone put something on that coach that wasn't officially registered," Archer suggested. "Wouldn't be the first time someone tried to move contraband that way." "Regardless," Angus said firmly, "these men have killed innocent people and threatened a lady. They need to be stopped." Martha, who had been quietly listening, stood and placed a gentle hand on Abigail's shoulder. "That's enough for tonight. This poor girl needs rest, not more talk of bandits and strongboxes." Archer nodded, rising from his chair. "You're right, Mother. We'll ride at dawn." "Miss Dawson, is there anything else you need tonight?" Abigail shook her head. "You've all been so kind already. I don't know how to thank you." "No thanks needed," Angus assured her. "Any friend of Hank's is welcome here." Martha showed Abigail to a small but comfortable bedroom. "You'll be safe here," she promised. "The men will sort this all out tomorrow." Despite her exhaustion, sleep eluded Abigail. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the bandit's face or heard the gunshots from Hank's cabin. The guilt of leaving the old man to face the bandits alone weighed heavily on her conscience. A soft knock at her door startled her from her thoughts. "Miss Dawson, are you awake?" Archer's voice was low, careful not to disturb if she was sleeping. Abigail wrapped Martha's borrowed robe more tightly around herself and opened the door. Archer stood in the hallway, holding a steaming mug. "I thought you might have trouble sleeping," he explained, offering her the mug. "Mother's chamomile tea works wonders." "Thank you," Abigail murmured, accepting the drink. "I can't seem to quiet my mind." Archer nodded in understanding. "May I?" He gestured to the small sitting area by the window. Abigail hesitated, then nodded. It wasn't proper to entertain a man in her bedroom, but nothing about her current situation was proper, and the thought of company was comforting. "I wanted to assure you," Archer said as he sat across from her, "that we'll do everything possible to find Hank and bring these men to justice." "I feel responsible," Abigail admitted. "If I hadn't come to his cabin, Hank made his own choice," Archer interrupted gently. "He's a good man who's lived by his own code his whole life. He wouldn't want you blaming yourself." Abigail sipped the tea, finding its warmth and subtle flavor soothing. "You seem to know him well." "He saved my father's life during the war," Archer explained. "They've been friends ever since. Hank doesn't stay in one place long, but he always circles back through these parts every few years. He said he was heading to California in the spring." Archer smiled. "He always says that. Been saying it for 15 years, according to Pa." The conversation shifted to lighter topics. Archer asked about Abigail's teaching position in Silver Valley, and she inquired about life on the ranch. There was an easy comfort to their interaction that surprised Abigail, given the circumstances of their meeting and the short time they'd known each other. "I should let you rest," Archer said eventually, rising from his chair. "Dawn comes early on a ranch." "Thank you for the tea," Abigail said, walking him to the door, "and for finding me in the forest. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't." Archer paused at the threshold, his blue eyes meeting hers. "Sometimes fate puts us exactly where we need to be, Miss Dawson." With a slight bow of his head, he left, closing the door softly behind him. Abigail returned to bed, finding that the tea or perhaps the conversation had indeed calmed her mind. She drifted off to sleep, her dreams for once free of bandits and danger. Dawn was breaking when Abigail was awakened by the sound of horses in the yard. Rushing to the window, she saw Archer and 4 other men mounting up, rifles strapped to their saddles. They were heading out to search for Hank and the bandits. Archer looked up as if sensing her presence, meeting her gaze through the window. He touched the brim of his hat in a silent salute before turning his horse and leading the men out of the yard. The day passed slowly for Abigail. Martha kept her busy with simple tasks around the house, clearly trying to distract her from worrying about the men's mission. By mid-afternoon, Abigail had helped bake bread, learned to churn butter, and mended several torn shirts. "You've got a good hand with a needle," Martha observed as Abigail finished repairing a rip in one of Archer's work shirts. "My mother insisted I learn all the domestic arts," Abigail explained. "Though I always preferred books." Martha smiled knowingly. "Archer's the same way. Always had his nose in a book as a boy. His father wanted him to focus on ranching, but that boy would sneak away to read whenever he could." She chuckled at the memory. "He's got quite a collection in his room, history mostly." "He seems very capable with the ranch work," Abigail observed. "Oh, he is," Martha assured her. "Best horseman in the county, and he knows this land better than anyone, but there's more to him than just ranching. He's got a curious mind." She gave Abigail a sly look, "and a kind heart." Abigail felt her cheeks warm under Martha's knowing gaze. Before she could respond, the sound of approaching horses drew their attention. "They're back," Martha exclaimed, hurrying to the window. Abigail joined her, scanning the returning riders anxiously. There were more men than had left that morning. As they drew closer, she spotted Archer riding alongside an older man on a mule. "It's Hank," she cried in relief. "He's alive." The two women rushed outside as the riders dismounted. Hank looked worse for wear, with a bandage around his arm and soot staining his clothes, but very much alive. "Mr. Mercer," Abigail called, rushing forward. "I thought they'd killed you." Hank's weathered face creased in a smile. "Takes more than a few bandits to finish me off, Miss Dawson. Glad to see you made it to the O'Malleys." "What happened?" Martha asked, ushering everyone toward the house. "Found Hank trying to track the bandits himself," Archer explained, helping the older man dismount. "Stubborn fool refused to let a bullet wound and a burned cabin stop him. Wasn't about to let those vermin get away with shooting at me and threatening the lady," Hank grumbled. Once inside, Archer explained the rest of their expedition. They had tracked the bandits to a camp near the territorial border, where they discovered not just the men who had attacked the stagecoach, but a larger operation involved in stealing from stagecoaches and mining shipments throughout the territory. "We surrounded their camp and took them by surprise," Archer continued. "There was some resistance, but we managed to capture most of them. The territorial marshal is taking them to Fort Benton for trial." "What about the strongbox they were looking for?" Abigail asked. Archer exchanged a look with his father. "That's where things get interesting. The box contained land deeds, falsified ones. Seems these men were part of a scheme to claim prime mining territories using forged documents. The deeds were headed to Silver Valley," Angus added. "Right where you were going, Miss Dawson," Abigail frowned. "But why were they so convinced I had taken it?" "Because the strongbox disappeared during the attack," Hank explained. "They found the stagecoach at the bottom of the ravine, but no box. They figured one of the passengers must have taken it." "And the other passengers?" Abigail asked hesitantly, fearing the worst. "Safe," Archer assured her, to her immense relief. "Mr. Wilson made it to a homestead about 5 miles from where you all jumped. The young woman and her baby were found by a hunting party and taken to Willow Creek. They've all been accounted for." Tears of relief filled Abigail's eyes. Thank God. The next few days passed peacefully at the O'Malley ranch. Hank remained to recover from his wound, though he insisted it was just a scratch. Abigail settled into the rhythm of ranch life, helping Martha with household tasks and spending evenings by the fire, often engaged in spirited discussions with Archer about books they had both read. There was something about Archer O'Malley that drew her to him. Perhaps it was the quiet confidence with which he carried himself, or his unexpected thoughtfulness. He brought her wildflowers he'd found while riding the range and carved a small wooden horse for her to remember her adventure by. On her 4th day at the ranch, Archer found Abigail sitting alone on the porch, gazing at the distant mountains. "Penny for your thoughts, Miss Dawson?" he asked, settling into the chair beside her. "I was just thinking about Silver Valley," she replied. "I should be arranging to continue my journey soon. The school term will be starting and they're expecting me." Archer's expression clouded slightly. "Of course. Father can take you to Willow Creek whenever you're ready. The stage runs to Silver Valley twice a week." "Your family has been so kind," Abigail said softly. "I don't know how to thank you all." "It's been our pleasure," Archer assured her, though there was a hint of something like regret in his voice. "Though I admit, the ranch will seem quieter without you." Abigail blushed, looking down at her hands. "I've enjoyed my time here more than I expected, despite the circumstances that brought me." Archer was silent for a moment, seeming to debate something internally. Finally, he spoke, his voice low and earnest. "Miss Dawson, Abigail, I know we've only known each other a short time, but I find myself reluctant to see you leave. Her heart quickened at his words. "Mr. O'Malley, Archer, please." "Archer," she amended, smiling shyly. "I've been feeling the same way." Hope filled his blue eyes. "Have you considered that perhaps fate brought you here for a reason? That maybe your teaching position could be found somewhere closer than Silver Valley?" "What are you suggesting?" Abigail asked, though her heart already knew. "Willow Creek needs a teacher," Archer said, reaching tentatively for her hand. "Their schoolmistress is retiring at the end of the year. It's only 15 miles from here, close enough to visit regularly." Abigail's mind raced with possibilities. "But my position in Silver Valley is at a school run by the man whose partner was arrested for the land deed forgery scheme," Archer revealed. "The marshal informed us yesterday. The whole operation is being investigated. The school may not even open this term." "Oh," Abigail breathed, shocked by this development. "I'm not asking you to abandon your plans," Archer continued. "Just to consider alternatives. Perhaps spend a few more weeks here while things sort themselves out. Get to know the area and me better." His hand tightened gently around hers. "I'd very much like the chance to court you properly, Abigail Dawson." The sincerity in his eyes made her heart flutter. In Boston, such a declaration after such short acquaintance would have been scandalous. But out here, where life was harder and more immediate, perhaps people recognized what mattered more quickly. "I'd like that too," she admitted, returning the pressure of his hand. "I could write to Silver Valley explaining the situation and inquire about the teaching position in Willow Creek." Archer's face broke into a smile that transformed his features, making him even more handsome. "You won't regret it." The next week passed in a blur of new experiences and deepening feelings. Archer taught Abigail to ride properly, laughing at her initial clumsiness but praising her determination. They picnicked by a mountain stream, where he told her stories of growing up on the ranch and his dreams for its future. In the evenings, they read to each other by lamplight while his parents exchanged knowing smiles. Hank, now recovered enough to travel, announced his intention to move on. "California's waiting," he said with a wink at Abigail, who now understood this was his standard excuse for wandering. The night before his departure, Hank pulled Abigail aside. "You're doing right staying on a bit," he told her gruffly. "That boy's got a good heart. Don't often see him take to someone the way he has to you." "He saved my life," Abigail replied. "I'll always be grateful." Hank snorted. "It's more than gratitude I see in your eyes when you look at him, Miss Dawson, and more than rescue in his when he looks at you." Abigail blushed but didn't deny it. "Life takes unexpected turns, doesn't it, Mr. Mercer?" "That it does," he agreed. "Sometimes for the better if we're brave enough to follow where it leads." 2 weeks after her arrival at the O'Malley Ranch, Abigail received a letter from Silver Valley confirming that the school would indeed be closed pending investigation. The same day, word came from Willow Creek that they would be delighted to interview her for their teaching position. That evening, Archer asked Abigail to join him for a ride. He led her to a ridge overlooking the valley, where they dismounted to watch the sunset paint the landscape in gold and crimson. "It's beautiful," Abigail breathed, taking in the vast expanse of wilderness and scattered homesteads. "This land gets in your blood," Archer said, standing close beside her. "I've never wanted to be anywhere else." "I think I'm beginning to understand why," she admitted. "There's a freedom here, a sense of possibility I never felt back east." Archer turned to face her, taking both her hands in his. "I have something to ask you, Abigail." Her heart began to race at the seriousness in his tone. "Yes. I know it hasn't been long," he began, his usual confidence giving way to endearing nervousness. "But I've never been more certain of anything in my life. I love you, Abigail Dawson. Your courage, your kindness, your quick mind, everything about you. If you need more time to be sure of your feelings, I understand, but I wanted you to know mine." Tears pricked at Abigail's eyes. "Archer O'Malley, are you proposing to me?" A smile broke through his nervousness. "I suppose I am, though not very eloquently. Would you consider becoming my wife? Not immediately, we can wait until you're ready, but knowing you feel the same would make me the happiest man in the territory." Abigail's heart felt too full for her chest. 2 months ago, she could never have imagined standing on a Montana ridge at sunset, being proposed to by a rancher she'd known mere weeks. Yet somehow, it felt more right than anything in her carefully planned life ever had. "I love you too," she whispered, her voice catching. "And yes, I would be honored to become your wife." Joy spread across Archer's face as he pulled her into his arms. Their first kiss was gentle, a promise of the future they would build together. As they stood embracing on the ridge, the last rays of sunlight giving way to dusk, Abigail felt truly at home for the first time since leaving Boston. The ride back to the ranch was filled with plans and dreams. They decided to announce their engagement that evening but wait until spring for the wedding, giving Abigail time to establish herself as Willow Creek's teacher and be certain of her choice. As they approached the ranch, darkness had fallen completely. Lanterns glowed in the windows of the main house, beckoning them home. Archer reached across to take Abigail's hand, his touch warm and reassuring in the cool night air. "I never expected to find love when I rode through the darkness looking for Hank's missing rider," he said softly. "But there you were, hiding beneath that tree, brave despite everything you'd been through." Abigail squeezed his hand. "And I never imagined when bandits attacked my stagecoach that being thrown into a stranger's hands would lead me to you." Archer leaned across the space between their horses and kissed her once more beneath the star-filled Montana sky. "Welcome home, Abigail Dawson." "Home," she repeated, the word filling her with contentment. "I like the sound of that." Together, they rode the final distance to the ranch, where Light and family waited to embrace them not as strangers anymore, but as two people who had found in each other the love and belonging they hadn't known they were seeking until fate intervened on a wild Montana trail.